Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, a love song between a man and a woman, which is really a love song between God and Israel. In praise of horses, that's what it should say on the top of your sheet. Parshas B'Shalach, in praise of horses. Okay? Now, in that song of Shir HaShirim, there are many expressions of love in a very poetic way between a man and a woman. Some of these work well in the 21st century translation, some of them not as well. Here's one that doesn't work as well. L'susasi berichvei faro dimitich rayati. I compare you, my beloved, to my horse from the chariots of Paro. I would be very reluctant to compare my wife to a horse. I probably would not survive. But that's really what Shlomo HaMelech is doing. He's saying, you, my beloved, are like one of my horses that I have acquired from the chariots of Paro. Now, what is this compliment that Shlomo is paying to his beloved? So, a commentary that's attributed to the Mahari Kara. By the way, the Mahari Kara was a contemporary of Rashi. He's a very, very early Rishon Rabbi. This is the original Rav Yosef Kara, not the more famous Rav Yosef Kara. But he states as follows: Haya Shlomo mishabecha bizrizut. King Solomon is praising the alacrity, the zeal of his beloved partner. Va'omer lesusati shemarkavotai asher shalach paro. Shehi zeriza dimiti otach rayati. I acquired, Shlomo, we know historically acquired, today the greatest horses are Arabian horses. In the ancient world, the best horses that you could acquire were Egyptian horses. So he says, you are like an Egyptian horse that I acquired from Paro's stable, from his own private stock of horses. They were the fastest horses. They were the most powerful horses, and that's what you're like. You can do everything. You're so capable, my beloved. That's really what he's saying. Ki b'Mitzrayim hayu susim zrizim, u'misham hayu molichim la'eretz Yisrael. Egypt had really very, very powerful and swift horses, and they used to export those horses to Israel. Shene'amar v'ta'aleh merkava miMitzrayim b'sheish me'ot kesef. We know this from Sefer Melachim, that Shlomo imported horses from Egypt. Now, interestingly, Machzor Vitri, which is an early commentary to the prayer service, tells us why we read Shir HaShirim on Pesach. We typically read it on Chol HaMoed Pesach, the Shabbos of Chol HaMoed Pesach. He writes, "U'Megillat Shir HaShirim omrim ota b'Shabbos shechala liot b'Cholo HaMoed." That's our minhag to recite it on the Shabbos of Chol HaMoed Pesach. V'im ein Shabbat b'Cholo HaMoed, omrim ota yom shvi'i shel Pesach. And if there's no Shabbos Chol HaMoed Pesach, because a lot of times the first and last day of Pesach are on a Shabbos, and there's no Shabbos Chol HaMoed, so when do you read Shir HaShirim? You read it on the seventh day of Pesach. Okay. Ulakach anu omrim ota b'Pesach al shem sheshir hashirim medaber migulat Mitzrayim. Why do we say it on Pesach? The reason why is because Shir HaShirim speaks about the redemption of Egypt. Shenamar lesusati berichbei paro. And what's the pasuk that he quotes to show us that Shir HaShirim is a reference to the redemption? This pasuk, I compare you, my beloved, to the horses of Paro. V'chol ha'inyan medaber me'arba giluyot lemevin. And on a deeper level, you can also find an allusion to the 4 exiles contained in Shir HaShirim. Now, what's curious is, why choose an allusion to the Egyptian exodus with a reference to Paro's horses? What do we know about Paro's horses in the Exodus story? Well, the Torah tells us they were drowned in the Red Sea. Okay? So that's the one reference. If you're going to make one kind of a literary allusion to the Exodus, You're going to make reference to the horses of Paro who drowned in the Red Sea. Is that what you want to choose out of all of the imagery that you could find in the story? And how does that relate to the Jewish people and the Jewish experience of Exodus? It certainly relates to the defeat of Paro and his army, but what does it have to do about the exodus of the Jewish people? What's also curious is that the emphasis on the horses is found in the Shir HaShirim. Shiru Lashem ki ga'o ga'a, sus v'rachavo, rama vayam. Sing to Hashem because he is surely mighty. Horse and rider he has thrust into the ocean. Why horse and rider? What's the significance of invoking the horse? And what's really curious is that we know that the men sang the Az Yashir, which we're going to read in this week's Parsha. And what did the women sing? Right? So we know that Miriam took the women and said, "Come, ladies, take your cymbals and your tambourines, and let's go off to ourselves and sing a song to Hashem." So they don't sing the entire song, but rather there's only one line that the women get. Vatan lahen Miriam, Shiru Lashem ki ga'o ga'a, sus v'rachavo rama vayam. Sing out to Hashem because he is greatly mighty. Horse and rider he has thrust into the ocean. Now, if you were, let's imagine you're Miriam for just a moment, and you want to praise Hashem for the great victory that you have just now experienced firsthand of being a slave and now being freed by Hashem and seeing your enemies defeated. What sentence would you choose to describe your feelings at that moment? Think about it for just a moment. What words would you choose? You would say, Baruch Hashem, thank God, I feel like singing to Hashem. That first part we can understand. But what would you choose to highlight? He has lifted me up. He has saved me. That's not at all what Miriam says. Miriam is not referring to herself. She's not referring to anything about what has happened to the Jewish people, but rather has chosen exclusively to focus on the defeat of Paro, using the horses as an example. Why is that? Yes?
I know there's a prohibition that a king shouldn't have too many wives and too many horses, right?
Mm-hmm. Another connection between horses and wives. Okay.
Well, what I'm thinking is that prohibition not to have too many horses, I always understood as not to have so much material wealth that's over the top, that's, extraordinary. So maybe horses is a reference to everything material in this world.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Okay, go ahead.
I would say above that, horses represent at that time the most powerful thing that a human could obtain. Humans are humans, and there's human ability, and then horses are the greatest power that humans can attain.
Okay, it was like an armored car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Hashem has defeated both human effort and the greatest effort that humans
can harness. Okay, good, all good. Yes.
Or maybe it's some sort of allusion to, I think I heard in the past of Yetzer Hora, like the kind of a little bit like what she said about the evil inclination, the horse and rider, like the horse, just the desire to do bad in the world.
Okay, good. So it's the defeat of evil. Okay, good.
I think it's like a prophecy, a reminder for us as we go into the future to put our faith in Hashem and not to put our faith in man or beast. Good,
all good. So that's going to be, you would choose that same sentence as Miriam, is what you're telling me.
Miriam was very holy.
No, I understand. I'm just saying that, again, I think that all of your interpretations are excellent, but the question still needs to be answered as to why she chose this one sentence Out of all of the things that she could have chosen to focus upon, why did she choose this?
Maybe because she wanted to emphasize the might of Hashem. Hashem is all powerful, and look what He did for us.
Okay. Listen, the truth is that when you're a newly liberated slave in a primitive prehistoric world, maybe that's all you can focus on is the might of God and how He can control. And you don't even have a sense of self yet to talk about what has happened to me, so you talk about everything that's around you. That could be. I appreciate what you're saying. Let me share with you, yes, Rachel.
After the Six-Day War,
Yeah.
and Israel defeated all its enemies, particularly Egypt, and they shot, the tanks and the airplanes and everything. Wasn't it? I remember people saying that was Hashem that did that, and they referred it. I think it's the same reference, like with the Susim.
Yeah, after the Six-Day War, look at Hashem defeated all of our enemies. Look at that. Okay. So that's really Miriam's declaration. She can't even think about what the repercussions perhaps are to her yet. She can only look at seeing that all of our oppressors have been laid to waste. All of this is probably correct. I want to share with you one insight, however, why perhaps Miriam in particular and the Jewish women are connecting with horse and rider. Okay? And maybe it has to do with why Shlomo HaMelech compares his beloved to a horse. Take a look at Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, Perek Mem Beis, chapter 42. So the Medrash says, let me just see if there's an actual fire. That would probably be a good thing to figure out.
Okay, so the other thing I'm thinking is, I remember a rabbi from Corbin come down to talk to the kids at their sermon. And he said, Jews never celebrate the suffering of others. Well, what did you find out?
I don't smell any fire.
Not on this
So I
floor.
think we're okay. If we find out any differently, if you see any smoke coming in.
I want to just add one more
Yeah.
thing. Many years ago, I went to Shar Shalom. I remember Rabbi Berman coming and speaking to the kids, and he said, we never, as Jewish people, we never celebrate suffering of others, even if they're our enemy. And it just made me think of that moment where there was this, incredible victory of salvation, but there was this horrible drowning of the mighty, of the men.
Yeah, but that only accentuates the question. If we're not supposed to celebrate the downfall of our enemies, then why is Miriam celebrating the downfall of our enemies?
Was there a punishment for that? Was there like lack of compassion? I don't know.
Well, okay. Let me show you Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, the Midrash, and we'll take a look at the Zohar, and you'll tell me if you find a connection. The source number 5 says, "V'hayu hamitzrim ratzim lavo acharei Yisrael v'chozrim la'achoreihem, yireim shema yashuvu hamayim aleihem." When the Egyptians were pursuing the Jews, and the Jews passed through the water miraculously, because the water formed walls on either side, the Egyptians started pursuing the Jews, and then what the Medrash portrays is that they all of a sudden they look up and they say, what in the world are we doing? This is crazy. We better get out of here. Because they see the sea walls on either side. They said, let's get out of here. So they started to turn around, according to the Medrash. Me asa hakadosh baruch hu nir'a bamayim ki ish rochev susya. So what did God do? He created the appearance that the waves of the water itself, should have the appearance of a mare, of a female horse. Shenemar lesusasi berichvei faro dimitich rayati, that you resemble my horse. Vehasus shahaya rochev paro ra'a susya. So the male horse that was leading the chariots of the army sees this female horse, this mare, or this apparition, this image of the female horse, viratz v'tzahal v'nichnas layam achareihem, and started to run towards that image of the female horse. Vira'u hamitzrim lefaro shenichnas bayam. And so the Egyptians see that Paro's chariot, this is Paro's chariot, and his male horse is running towards into the ocean because it sees the female horse. And so all of the other Egyptians see this. Nichnesu kulam el hayam acharav. And so everyone followed. Shene'emar vayirdefu mitzrayim acharayim, as it says that Egypt pursued afterwards. So the Medrash portrays that this was a miraculous apparition that appeared in order to draw the Egyptians further in. The Zohar portrays it slightly differently. First quoting in source number 6, first quoting, Ketiv lesusati berichbei paro dimiti chorayati, the very same pasuk that we started with. It quotes the Medrash, but then it says we could explain it slightly differently. Tachazi, paro b'sha'ata dehava radif abatrayhu di Yisrael ma'avad. Come in and see. At the moment when Paro was pursuing Israel, what did he do? Natal susvan nukvan v'kafat lon biritichoi b'kadmeta v'susin duchra'i kafat lon la'achurehen. That what he did is that he took a female horse and attached it to his own chariot to run in the front. And then he made sure that all of the male horses were running behind in the other chariots. V'havu mezayenin duchrei lekabel nukvi, v'nukvi lo ba'an v'ochan lamezal. So the male horses see the female horse in front, and they all start running after her. And the female horse is not interested in getting caught, so she runs away. And that's what brought the Egyptians further and further into the Red Sea. They would not have gone in were it not for some additional temptation or draw that came from the female horse. So therefore, when we want to interpret the deeper meaning of this pasuk, lesusati berichbei paro dimiti chorayati, what we are saying is that you, my beloved, are like the horse of Paro, who drew forth all of the other riders. And that's the reference to the ultimate story of the downfall of Egypt, of the splitting of the Red Sea and the sea drowning them, because they were drawn in after the female horse. Now, what is this all about? Why then is this message now more relevant? Why does it now change the meaning of this pasuk? So I'm going to make two suggestions. One is my own, and then one will take a look at the Netziv in just a minute. The simple understanding is that we know bizchut nashim tzidkaniot nigalu avotenu mimitzrayim. We know that it was in the merit of the righteous women of that generation that we were redeemed. And we've spoken about this in previous years. We've talked about how the righteous women during the period of enslavement would have tremendous bitachon, tremendous trust, knowing that one day we're going to be redeemed, giving words of encouragement to their husbands, bathing them at the end of a long day, feeding them, having their babies, and reassuring their husbands that there will come a time for redemption and not allowing them to sink into the abyss of despair. And it was because of that that our ancestors were redeemed, because if it weren't for the women upholding all of society, we would have been lost entirely. And so it was Miriam particularly more than anyone else who recognized that when you don't give up hope, you can actually save everyone around you. And it was specifically because of the type of influence that women have over men, that they are successful in being able to bring out either the best in the male or the worst in the male. And the whole story of how Egypt met its downfall was demonstrated to them by Hashem, that because the female horses drew in the male horses and led them to their downfall. By contrast, we, the Jewish women of Israel, because of our ability to positively influence our husbands and our children, were able to lead our people to redemption. And so perhaps what Miriam was reflecting upon was not only the downfall of Egypt, but for every downfall that Egypt experienced, it was also a reflection upon the salvation of the Jewish people. And just like the downfall of Egypt occurred through the female horse, our redemption occurred through the encouragement and the optimism of the Jewish woman. And part of the lesson that is being given to Paro is that you, Paro, thought that the might of Egypt would always be upheld because of your great strategy, your great military, your great physical and tactical might. But look how it was destroyed because of your baser desires of your horses. And unfortunately, civilizations have fallen because people have given in to their baser desires. And that's part of the lesson, is that your horses just couldn't hold it together. And that's what brought them to their demise. But it's in that sense, the story of the downfall of Egypt has been like the downfall of so many other travelers and armies. You know, the story of the Greek sirens, I have that for you. In Greek mythology, the sirens were dangerous creatures who lured nearby sailors with their enchanting music and singing voices to shipwreck on the rocky coast of their island. Sirens were believed to combine women and birds in various ways. In early Greek art, sirens were represented as birds with large women's heads, bird feathers, and scaly feet. Later, they were represented as female figures with the legs of birds, with or without wings, playing a variety of musical instruments, especially harps. Okay, and then they would sometimes be depicted as beautiful women whose bodies, not only their voices, are seductive. And so that's the power of the female. Power of the female is to be able to draw in the male who normally thinks that he is the dominant gender and that he's in control, and the female can control everything. It can be done for the positive, and it can be done destructively. Thankfully for Egypt, it happened destructively, and for the Jewish people, it happened positively. And that's why Miriam readily associates with that line in the song, because she recognizes that it's a reflection. The Egyptian downfall is a reflection of the Jewish victory. So that's one explanation that I'd like to just put out there as a possibility as to why Miriam associates with that line in the Shira more than any other. And then I want to share with you what the Netziv has to say in his commentary to Shir HaShirim. Let's take a look at it quickly. Source number 7. L'susati b'richbei paro dimiti chorayati. Hein ikar shira she'al hayam husus v'rachavo ramav hayam. The Netziv says the most essential sentence of the entire song of Az Yashir is horse and rider he has thrust into the ocean. Ve'alkein lo shara Miriam elazeh hamikra. And that's why Miriam chose that sentence alone. Upirush zeh hamikra debesus v'rachavo nichlal hakol. Because horse and rider is all-inclusive. What do we mean? Dekemo hasus hamuchan liyom milchama nishma l'rochbo. That just like a horse is obedient to its master, waiting for the day when it will be called to ride into war, kach ish hachayil nishma la'adonav lihitalech ba'eshu v'mayim. So too a soldier is ready to the call to receive the instructions from his commander that it is time to go in fire and water, to go into battle. V'hagadol mimenu hu kesus l'sar ha'elef. And his superior officer is, just like I'm a horse in comparison to my superior is but a horse in comparison to his commander. V'sar ha'elef hu kesus l'rosh sarei tzavaos ad paro atzmo. And all of the other superior commanders are but horses in comparison to Paro, who's the ultimate commander-in-chief of the army. V'gam nichlal bazeh hasar ha'elyon haruchev al ha'ma'aracha ha'elyona shel Paro. And above Paro is the spiritual force of Egypt, and Paro is but a horse in comparison to that angelic archangel of Egypt. Ula'oto sar ha'elyon nimshach kol ha'ma'aracha kesus. And essentially, really what the song represents is that all of the components of Egypt, all of the constituent components who are all under the command of the great leader, all are like the horse and the rider. Ve'akadosh baruch hu ramah hakol bayam. And God was able to successfully thrust all of that into the ocean. V'zehu dichtiv ki ga'o ga'a, ge'eh al kol ha'ge'im. And that's what it means that God is surely mighty. He is, the ga'o ga'a, that double language implies that God holds himself higher than all those who hold themselves to be so mighty and great. Ve'amar hakadosh baruch hu dekamo hasus shebirichbei paro, hayinu hanimshachim achar rochveihem v'harochet manhig da'ato u'gedulato yedei hasus shetachtav. Meaning that, and now what is the comparison to the Jewish people? He says, because just like a lower person allows himself to be obedient and to be drawn after the commands of his superior, kach dimitich rayati. That's how I look at you, says Hashem to Israel, because the song of Shir HaShirim, the male is God, the female is the Jewish people. Ata nimshach acharai, va'ani manhig ha'olam al yedei ma'asecha u'birchotecha. That, you're like the horse in this analogy, because you follow me, you follow my commands, but I conduct and provide for the entire world based upon your blessings. Kemo shenemar b'parshat v'zot habracha, ein kakel yishun rochev shamayim be'ezrecha. That there is no one like God who rides the heavens, with the help of the Jewish people. The Pirush HaKadosh Baruch Hu rochev al galgalei hateva hamichunim shamayim be'ezram shel Yisrael al yedei brachot u'tfilot shelahem. That God is the rider in the sky. And the Jewish people are like the horse that pulls the rider in the chariot. Because it is only through our tefillah, our mitzvot, that Hashem allows himself to conduct everything that's going on in the world. So there is a duality to this comparison. On the one hand, it is a comparison to Egypt and how Hashem can control the ultimate downfall of all of Egypt. But it's also a comparison to how Hashem is associated with the Jewish people as a horse and a rider. Lesu sati berichvei paro dimitich rayati, as I compare you, just like Paro was in control of his entire army and all of his horses, I, Hashem, am the rider and you are my horse. It's true that I am able to get things done because you obediently conform to my commands. But the only way that I'm able to get around and maneuver through the world and make sure that it continues running is because you pull my chariot faithfully. You heed my commands, and it is through your blessings and through your devotion that I can bring blessing to the world, and I can conduct what's going on in Shamayim. So in this sense, this is also part of Miriam's Shira. Miriam recognizes when she sees the downfall of Egypt that just like all of mankind is like a horse and a rider, there's hierarchy within mankind. There are the lower ones who are like the horse. There are the higher ones who are like the rider. And the horse becomes subservient to the rider. And then the rider is in turn subservient to the higher commander, going all the way up in a chain of command. Ultimately, Hashem is the ultimate rider, and we are all but his horses. But we benefit him, because when we pull his chariot through our devotion, he's able to bring the world the blessings that it needs. And therefore, Miriam's declaration of Sus v'Rachavo Ramavayam is also an affirmation of her understanding that Hashem needs us just as much as we need him. And we have a beautiful future together, is what Miriam is trying to affirm when she sings Sus v'Rachavo Ramavayam. Paro had a horse, and God has a horse. And just like Paro was able to control the direction of his horses, but his horses pulled his chariot, God directs us, we pull his chariot, and we work together in making the world go the way it's supposed to go. If it wasn't for us, there would be no redemption. We needed Hashem to bring the redemption, but he brought it via his vehicle, the horses that pull his chariot and allow him to get these things done. So perhaps that provides a little bit more insight as to why Miriam chooses this one line in the song to praise Hashem, and why it becomes the focal point of Az Yashir. I don't know, but perhaps you can find some meaning in that message. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day.